There's a moment in every great story where the main character doesn't know what's coming next, not because the plot has stopped moving, but because the next page hasn't been turned. The air feels still, the scenery hasn't shifted, but somewhere deep inside, in a place even logic can't touch, something is changing. That's the moment most people mislabel as being stuck. But in truth, that's the space between chapters. And if you're here right now watching this video, it might be because you're standing in that invisible gap between the life you know and the reality you can feel but can't yet touch. The quantum field doesn't operate like a clock or a to-do list. It moves more like a symphony, not linear, but layered. Not mechanical, but deeply intelligent. And right now, whether you realize it or not, that field is holding every version of you that could ever exist. The one who found the relationship, the one who built the business, the one who healed, the one who let go, they're all already there, not in some distant future, but in a frequency that's already vibrating now. And that brings us to a truth you were never taught in school. Manifestation isn't about creating something that doesn't exist. It's about aligning with something that already does. That shift in understanding is the axis on which your entire reality can turn. You've probably been told to focus on what you want, to set goals, visualize, affirm. And while those tools have their place, the truth is they often keep you in a state of separation. Because when you're chasing a future, you're inherently stating it's not here yet. And the quantum field doesn't hear your words. It responds to your state of being. Not what you say, not even what you do, but who you're being vibrationally, moment by moment. Let's pause here. If you're already resonating with this, it's not because I'm telling you something new. It's because I'm reminding you of what your nervous system already knows. You've had moments, haven't you, where you felt the truth of this? Moments when reality seemed to soften, when something aligned so perfectly it made you question if you were creating or remembering. That's because in those moments you weren't trying, you weren't efforting. You were simply in tune emotionally, mentally, and energetically with a timeline already alive in the field. And yet most of us are trained to interrupt that harmony. We say we want ease, but we live in the vibration of resistance. We crave alignment, but we operate from doubt. And the most dangerous belief we carry is this: it's not happening yet, so maybe it's not meant for me. That belief doesn't just delay manifestation, it collapses the frequency entirely. Because here's how the quantum works. What you feel is true now becomes the blueprint for what you experience next. Not because the universe is testing you, but because your reality is built by resonance, not requests. Imagine this: you're tuning a radio. You want to hear your favorite song, but instead of turning the dial, you scream at the static, play the song. It doesn't work. Not because the song isn't playing somewhere, but because you're not tuned in. Now apply that to your desires. The life you want is already playing. It's not your job to beg for it. It's your job to match its frequency. But that takes more than just thinking positive thoughts or scripting affirmations. It requires an internal collapse of the old self, the one who believed they had to earn it, prove it, or chase it. It means stepping out of the loop of lack and into the vibration of already having. Here's what no one tells you. The field doesn't mirror what you want. It mirrors what you are. So if you say, I want abundance but feel scarcity, the field mirrors scarcity. If you say, I'm ready for love but hold resentment, the field reflects resistance. But if you say nothing and simply embody the version of you who already lives it, then the field has no choice but to respond accordingly. Because to the field you are the signal. And once that signal stabilizes, the quantum collapses not randomly but mathematically into the version of reality that matches you. And that's why this moment matters more than you know. Not because you need to do more, but because the field is already listening. And the question it's asking isn't what do you want? It's who are you being? Let's go deeper, because it's not enough to understand that the quantum field mirrors your frequency. You must begin to recognize what frequency you're actually broadcasting, not what you intend to broadcast. And that starts with awareness. Radical, uncomfortable, liberating awareness. Not of what's missing from your life, but of what you're unconsciously rehearsing in your energy every single day. What do you wake up rehearsing? The lack, the delay, the story of still not there yet, or the version of you who walks as if the desire is fulfilled, even if the 3D world hasn't caught up yet. This is where most people struggle. They mix frequencies. They say all the right things, visualize, journal, meditate, but then spend the rest of their day thinking, feeling, and acting like the version of them who doesn't have it yet. And that confusion creates interference. The quantum field doesn't know what to respond to, so it holds, waits, echoes back static. Here's a truth that might sting, but will set you free. The field isn't late, You're just tuned to a version of reality that cannot contain what you've asked for. And tuning happens not through force, but through identity. When you broadcast as the version of you who is still doubting, checking, waiting, comparing, you remain in the loop of what's already manifested. But when you shift into embodiment, everything starts to rearrange. That's why spiritual teachings across traditions all circle back to one core principle. Be it now, not fake it not. Force it but feel it real. And from that state, take aligned action. Quantum jumping at its core isn't a mystical escape. It's an act of emotional coherence. It's becoming so vibrationally stable in a new version of yourself that the field must obey because it can't not. The wave collapses according to the observer. And if your observation is no longer contaminated by doubt, resistance, or contradiction, the shift becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Let me ask you something. Who would you be if you were no longer looking for signs? How would you move if the desire was already your memory? What decisions would you make if there was nothing left to prove? These aren't rhetorical questions. These are quantum tuning forks, because in asking them, you access a new frequency, one where you stop seeking validation and start living as a transmitter of the outcome you once chased. And that's where magic begins, not because the universe rewards you, but because you've stopped rewarding your old identity with attention. And here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you no longer need proof, it appears. Why? Because your signal is clean, your field is uninterrupted. You're no longer sending out, I want this, but I don't believe it. You're simply existing in a state of I am, and the quantum field, being both intelligent and neutral, mirrors that back without hesitation. You'll begin to notice it in strange, subtle ways. People treat you differently, though they don't know why. Opportunities arise that weren't visible before. You feel calm even though nothing external has changed because your internal landscape has shifted. And that internal shift is the manifestation. Everything that happens afterward is just the reflection, like light bouncing off a mirror. It's not where the light starts, it's where the light lands. And once you understand that, you stop chasing shadows. You stop asking yours, when will it happen? And you start declaring, it's already chosen me. In the next part of this transmission, we'll explore why so many people feel empty or uncertain even after doing all the right things, and how to know if the field has already started reorganizing in your favor. But for now, let this truth land deeply. What you want isn't somewhere out there. It's here, waiting for you to meet it at its own frequency. And the second you match it, it has no choice but to become your next. Now, there's a pattern that quietly runs most people's lives. It doesn't scream, it doesn't demand, it whispers. It shows up in hesitation, in second-guessing, in moments where you almost say yes to something that feels expansive but don't. It's the voice that says, what if I'm wrong? What if I look foolish? What if nothing happens? That voice isn't fear. It's the residue of an identity that hasn't yet caught up to your vision. Because here's what the self-help books don't always tell you. Your old self won't surrender easily. It was built to survive, not to thrive. It was sculpted by repetition, by environment, by emotional trauma and inherited beliefs. And every time you start to vibrate at the level of your desires, that old self panics because your frequency no longer matches the reality it knows how to control. And what does the ego do when it senses a death of control? It resists. It clings. It finds clever ways to bring you back to the familiar. It calls it logic. It disguises itself as caution. But what it's really doing is broadcasting confusion to the field, one foot on the accelerator, one on the brake. This is why you can do everything right, visualize, affirm, meditate one, and still feel stuck. Because while your actions are aligned with your desires, your energetic identity is still loyal to your past. And the quantum field, always precise, reflects not your efforts but your essence. Let's make this concrete. You say you want to be abundant, but you still make decisions from scarcity. You say you're ready for love, but you still fear being fully seen. You say you want freedom, but you still feel guilt when you rest. This is the